Hey y'all, Coldfire here, and this is a comprehensive breakdown on SnowRunner's gearboxes. I'll start this video by showing all gearboxes and a general overview of their performance, what they're good for, and where you can find it. And that will follow by a spreadsheet that will match all trucks with the available gearbox for each one of them. Then I'll walk through all types of gears and when you should use them. And then I'll do a complete performance analysis showing side-by-side comparisons of different setups, traversing different types of terrains. And finally, I'll give my verdict about every type of gearboxes on this game. If you don't have this game yet and you consider buying it on Epic Store, make sure to use my affiliate code or click on the link on the video description. Alright, so first things first, what a gearbox is for if you have absolutely zero clue about mechanics and how real vehicles work. In a nutshell, a gearbox serves three main purposes. 1. It is used to increase or decrease the torque being transmitted by the engine. 2. It is used to provide means of reversing the vehicle. And 3. It is used to provide a permanent position of neutral, so you can stop your vehicle without having to kill your engine. On SnowRunner, we have 10 types of gearboxes. All of them will have neutral, reverse, and low gears. For most of the trucks, the options that are available are the balanced, high-range, and off-road gearboxes. Being the default one, the balanced, it has 5 speeds on automatic, and that's pretty much it. The high-range will have a total of 8 speeds, and will also have a high gear. The off-road gearbox has only 4 forward speeds. It also has the high gear and will also feature the low plus and low minus speeds. For most Scout vehicles, they will have the option for the stock, Freeway, and SnowRunner, and they are pretty much the same as balanced, high range, and off-road, but with a different name. Some of the heaviest truck will feature the option of special or advanced special gear, and the archaic and special off-roads are not going to be covered on this video because they are super exclusive. I think only 1 or 2 trucks use them. It's not worth wasting time on them. Here on this table you can see which truck have access to which type of gearbox, as well as of the penalty or bonus that they provide for the 3 main status that are power to weight ratio, durability, and fuel consumption. You can find the link for this spreadsheet on the video description. Alright, now that you know all types of gears, let's learn when you should use each one of them. So first let me tackle the trio of low gears. We have the low gear, the low plus, and the low minus. The whole idea of the low gears is that they have a lot of torque with low speed. Being the low minus the slowest of them, and the low plus the fastest of them. Keep in mind, since power is the product of torque and rotation speed, the lower the speed, the higher the torque. So in-game, those gears are meant to be used when you're traveling on mud and really rough terrain. A rule of thumb here on when to use low plus, low or low minus is try your best to not make your tires spin freely. If they're spinning without friction on the ground, that's clearly not going to be helpful for your movement. If you want to move forward, you need to make sure that your tires are in contact with the ground as much as possible. So if you're crossing some mud and you note that your tires started spinning, first of all, try to switch to low plus. If that doesn't help, switch to low. And even then, if that doesn't help, switch to low minus. And even that, if this doesn't help you, start throttling your vehicle and do your best to not spin your wheels. The automatic gear is pretty straightforward. You want to use it whenever you're driving on the paved road or easy terrain, like light dirt, for example, shallow water bodies, flat rocks, and so on. The neutral point will detach your engine from the rest of your transmission system, and though it's not very useful, it could be helpful on a few occasions. And to be honest, since the game has auto-clutching, I can hardly justify the usage of this gear, other than maybe exploiting the momentum when going downhill. So in theory you could just shut off your engine, switch to neutral gear, and just let it go. That's not that much helpful, but maybe it could save your mission if you're really short on fuel. But that's pretty much it, I guess. The reverse might seem useless for a brand new player, but it's so helpful. The reason behind that is by engaging the manual reverse, you can still have your differential lock enabled if your truck has a switchable lock. So that could be very helpful. Other than that, by engaging the manual reverse, you can also use your brake, so you can have better control of your braking when going on reverse, and that pretty much is it. So normally I just use the auto reverse because I'm sometimes lazy. But when you want to have more precision, or you need more, or you're reversing on a rough terrain that would need differential lock, then you should use the manual reverse. And this is the most controversial one, that is the high gear. Some people think that's because the low is low, so the high must be higher than the biggest automatic, the highest automatic. But that's, first of all, that's not true. So the high gear is sort of for the, so the high gear depends mostly on the truck and on the gearbox that you're using. But I'll give you an example for the off-road gearbox. So the high gear on the off-road gearbox will sort of match the second gear mostly. And some people say that it is a 1-to-1 ratio, but it isn't. First of all, it doesn't make much sense, a 1-to-1 ratio for a truck, especially for an off-road truck. But I'm gonna go into details on that on a different video. I'm making a Mythbuster video for the gearboxes, so make sure to subscribe so you won't miss that. However, another myth that people say is that the high gear uses less fuel, and that's also not true, and I'm gonna show you on this video, by the way. So what's the deal of the high gear if it's not any of those I just told you? The high gear is meant to be used on light dirt and some really shallow mud. The niche for the high gear is that it is a fixed gear, so the game will not try to switch it from like first to second to third or whatever, so it's a fixed gear. And it can be helpful when your traction and your speed is just enough to keep second, and if you don't use the high gear, the game will keep switching back and forth between first and second and third, first, second, and third, and that could cause you to lose a lot of momentum. So that is one option, and it's also really good at, and it's also really decent at downhills that you can have higher control on your speed. And the downside of using the high gear is that it can stall your engine. So if you don't keep throttling, if you lower your speed, since it's a fixed gear ratio, it can kill your engine, so you have to start the engine again. Alright, so now let's move on to the performance analysis. The first test we have is the fuel consumption comparison between high gear, low plus gear, and automatic gear. So this is sort of a Mythbuster for high gear, because again, a lot of people say that you should switch to high gear to save fuel, and let's see if this works. So for that, I'm gonna compare a fully upgraded, fully loaded Ink truck, and we'll see if the high gear indeed will use less fuel. And by looking at the finish line, that was kind of a surprise for me. The auto gear was the champion. It used 1 less liter. I know there's some margin of error here, but this would at least prove that it doesn't make a lot of difference on the fuel consumption if you're using high gear. On the second experiment, I would like to test another claim. It is kind of obvious that the SnowRunner gearbox or the Offroad gearbox will be better for mud. However, is it true that the Freeway gearbox is better on flat paved terrain? Let's check out. So here I have a fully upgraded unloaded Chevy pickup, and we'll compare the stock gearbox, the Freeway gearbox, and the SnowRunner gearbox also on a flat, straight, paved road. And for my surprise, the Freeway gearbox lost to the stock one. That was surprising. I had no expectations of that. Almost tie with the SnowRunner. So what's going on here? Well, to try to understand this a little bit better, I went frame by frame and made the following graph. On the y-axis, you have the velocity, the instant velocity. On the x-axis, you have the time. The numbers there indicate the current gear, and the colors are the types of the gearbox. So here is the big culprit. The Freeway gearbox is really terrible at low speeds. It takes a long to shift gears, and it loses a lot of momentum by shifting. So even though it will have a faster top speed, like by far actually, it will take a long time to reach those speeds. I really think they should tweak this a little bit better, because that road had about 300 meters, and honestly, when and where on this game you have a straight clear road like that? I mean, never. So looking at this graph, I would say that the Freeway gearbox is objectively inferior than the rest of them, even when compared to the stock gear. And the main reason is the lack of torque at low speeds. And you know this game, torque is everything. Just to make sure that the Chevrolet wasn't a quirk, I went out and tested on a Humvee. And for my surprise, the results were exactly the same. It wasn't by a whole lot, but the Freeway gearbox still finished the last. And when you check the speed graph, the results are even more compelling. At lower gears like first, second, and third, the gearbox struggles a lot to shift gears and lose a lot of speed on the transitions. So that is pretty much the main reason why this gearbox sucks so bad. It will only manage to overtake the stock one after 20 seconds. And for the mud test, the SnowRunner is clear a winner on this. The ability to switch between low minus and low plus is a must for most missions. Sometimes you just don't want to lose time by going at low gear, so you can go at low plus, and sometimes you really need the extra traction, so you can always change back to low minus. So the flexibility this gearbox provides to you is priceless. For the off-road trucks, we'll compare the stock, Highrange, and off-road gearboxes. Unlike the smaller version on the Scout counterparts, the Highrange gearbox will be the fastest one at the finish line. However, it is not by a huge margin. It barely beats the off-road, and the stock gearbox is not really good at all. If you look at the velocity graph, the Freeway gearbox will still struggle on the first gears, and they only make up after 15 to 20 seconds after launch, so I'm still not very convinced by it. So here I would say that the Highrange is improvement over the stock gearbox, but I'll still keep the off-road if you ask me. The gain here is so marginal, and you lose the ability of low minus and low plus gears. I also tested the same gearboxes on a fully loaded Caterpillar heavy truck, and the results were very similar. The Highrange will finish first, however the off-road is not very behind. So I still have my money on the off-road. Also, in terms of fuel consumption, they will all have pretty much the same efficiency, only the stock one burning a little bit less fuel overall. For this specific test, the velocity curve is quite interesting. You can see that the Highrange and the balance will share pretty much the exact same profile on first and second gears. However, the Highrange will split off, being significantly faster on the third and above gears. And to wrap this batch of experiments, let's finally check the heavy boys. Here I'm testing the elusive 10x10 as of 73 210. This thing is a beast, it's massive. As most heavy trucks, it will use the special and advanced special gearbox, so let's see if the advanced special is worth the money. On this test, the truck is fully upgraded and it's loaded with a drilling rig. And at the finish line, we have a clear winner. By looking at the velocity curve, the Advanced Special is clearly superior in every single way. It's not only faster on paved roads, but will also allow you to have low minus and low plus gears, so it cannot get any better than that. So this one is a no-brainer. On the mud test, they will both perform equally terrible, probably because this truck is way too heavy, no clearance, and this mud here is a bitch. So no way you can cross it at all. So now that we got all this test information, what is my verdict? Well, you may not agree with me, but in my personal opinion, I would go always with the SnowRunner gearbox for the scout vehicles, with the off-road gearbox for pretty much all trucks, and definitely with the Advanced Special for the heavy trucks. I will stay really far away from the Freeway, so I rather use a stock gearbox rather than the Freeway if I'm using a scout vehicle. And for the Highrange, nah, I also gonna skip it, not gonna use it, so that's my opinion. Leave in the comments what you think about all this testing. Did I screw it up anyway on the methodology? Please give me your feedback. This is my first attempt on a breakdown video for SnowRunner, and I'm still learning the game, to be honest. So I would love to hear your feedback and something that I could improve for the future videos. I'm currently planning on making a tire breakdown where I would compare pretty much all possible tires and trying to find out what their niche are. So make sure to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss that. Thank you so much for watching, and I see you next time.